Welcome back to another BGCSE past paper review. Today, again, we're going to review another biology paper, and we're reviewing an alternative to practical paper. Again, this is a paper 5. And please remember to always write the school number. Your candidate number is very important as well. Your surname and also your initials. This was from June 2021. Please remember to read through all instructions carefully before you start the examination. And if you have any questions or any queries, please clarify them with your examiner. All right, so we're going to jump into question number 1. And question number 1 is the diagram shows an instrument used in the science laboratory. And this is a microscope. And the same exact microscope was on 2019. And matter of fact, we labeled that one in 2019. So you can go back to 2019 if you want to know the labelings of that paper. All right, or the microscope, so we have to label that. But here it said name the instrument and state its main function. So they're not going to ask us to label again. So notice the same thing came back, but this time they're asking different things about it. So the name of this is a microscope. All right, so this is a microscope. And the function of microscope is to view slash observe, to view or observe very small, let's call them small specimen, not typically small specimen, not typically visible to the naked eye. Visible to the naked eye. All right. So that's what the main function is. Really to view small objects or to view microscopic objects or organisms or specimen. All right, so that's the main function. Let's see the next part of the question now. It said that here is a state the correct procedure for carrying this instrument from one location to another within the laboratory. All right, so within the lab itself, not to carry it to your home. In your home, you put in a box and you carry it home, right? But in the laboratory, what do you do? All right, so in the laboratory, you have to do two main things. All right, well, I'm gonna put in one sentence, but it's actually two things you have to do. One, you're gonna hold it by the arm, hold it by the arm. That's the first thing you're gonna do. Hold it by the arm with one hand. Let me say with one hand, with one hand. All right, and place the other hand under the base, the base. All right. So you do that. So you hold it by the arm of the microscope. You use the microscope arm with one of your hand, and you place the other hand on the base of it. And that is to kind of increase stability or to make it really, really safe. So you won't slip from one hand, fall on your toe, because the microscope can be really heavy. Drop on your toe break up. You sue your school. You can't sue, well, then again, you can't sue the school because they have a big safety rule there. They say follow the safety rules. Do not play in the lab. Do not do this. Do not do that. So it will be at your own demise. Yeah, but to ensure your safety, because you really don't want nobody to break up. So you hold it properly, hand at the arm, the next hand on the base, and you have better stability. And even if you slip, let's say you slip and fall, which is unlikely for you to happen in a typical lab. But let's say something should happen, you slip and fall. At least falling with the microscope held like that is easier to have a control over it, and you have less damage and so on. All right, and even to make the prevent damage to the microscope as well, which is gonna be very difficult to damage the microscope, but that is also another reason. All right, so on the diagram, draw a line to the mirror and label it X. So let's look for the line that let's look for the mirror. So on label it X. So this is the mirror right here. The reflected mirror. All mirrors reflect. Let's call it X. All right. So we label the mirror X. And here now for part D, it said the correct use of the instrument to view cells on a prepared slide involves 6 steps. A, B, C, D, E, and F listed below. And here's a place the 6 steps in the correct sequence to observe cells on a prepared slide. And it's from first to last step. And it's 10 marks. Oh, Lord. 6 marks. So let's include our 10 marks. So it's only 6, so we're going 4 marks already. So the very first thing you have to do here is to ensure that the objective lens. The first thing is always look. So this one is the most important one, and just to make it clear, always start off with the lowest possible objective lens. That's the first thing you always do. Turn the microscope to the lowest objective lens. Always, that's the first thing. The next thing you want to do now, after you've done that, you want to place the thing on the stage. So this one look like, yeah, so this will be 2. All right, and after you place the slide onto the stage, yeah, this makes sense here. Secure the slide onto the stage, which is the number 3. And then you want to, and yeah, after that, you can adjust the course adjustment knob, which is this. So this will be number 4. And then the next thing you can do after you do that, then you can increase the objective lens now. So after you finish the course adjustment knob, then you can always go back to the objective lens. You can increase it by a larger magnification. And the final thing you want to do is to adjust your fine adjustment knob, and that is what's going to give you your sharpness or really focus on the object properly. So based on what we have here, number 1 is A, so we're going to start with A. So number 1 is A, and then you are going to have C. Number 2 is C. Then the third thing is D, and after D comes E, and after E comes B for number 5, and then the final step there is F. All right, yeah, so A, C, D, E, B, F. All right. All right, so that will be the way to do it. That's the best way to do the microscope. All right, so here now we said that the photographs, so number 2, the photographs showing leaves from 2 different species of dicotyledonous plant were given to a student. The photographs are shown below and are in the same size as the actual leaf. So they're the same size as the actual leaf. And remember, we have a leaf question, I think it was 2020 paper that we reviewed. Yeah, 2020. And that time we actually do the magnification drawing, and we also do some labeling. I think it was 2020. Yeah, it's 2020 that we did the leaf question on. All right, so you notice some of the questions are similar in terms of the content. All right, so you see that you have to write up a lab procedure. They test you on microscope. They test you on using lab instruments. They test you on osmosis. That's a favorite one I could see. And now they test you on a leaf again. All right, it's a measure and record with a suitable unit the width of leaf A and leaf B along the line drawn on each photograph. Now, unfortunately, there's no line drawn on the photograph, right? I don't see no line on the photograph. All right, unless my image is a little bit off. But anyhow, this is a scan, so you're not going to see it as bright. But I'm going to put a line across here, right? I estimate that way the line should be the widest portion of the leaf, and this one will be somewhere here. All right, and if you measure, yeah, this one could be a little bit up. Yeah, this one could be a little bit up. Let me just put a broken line here. I think this one will be the best line. The broken line one, I think should be the best. Yeah, should be the better one. Yeah, should be the better line. Right, that make better sense. Yes. All right. So here now it say you put the width. All right. So based on measuring this, leaf A is approximately 3 centimeters. So this is 3 centimeters. Remember, 3 centimeters would also be written as 30 ml. Why keep on saying ml? Millimeter. All right. So millimeter. I don't know. I love volume. All right. So yeah. So you can use millimeter or centimeter, whichever one, right? And for leaf B, is going to be 3.4 centimeters or 34 millimeters. All right. Next step now, our next part of the question is to list 2 similarities and 2 differences between leaf A and leaf B, all right, that are visible in the photographs. And we'll talk about the similarities first. All right, for the similarities, there's going to look 2 similarities. Actually, yes, let's talk about 2 similarities here. So if I go back to the leaf, let's look at them carefully. How are these 2 leaves similar? All right, matter of fact, I can only see two similarities anyhow. I don't see no more than 2 ways which they are similar. All right, and I think you kind of figure them out as well. The shape different for one. All right, so it's not the shape. All right, but the width of the leaf. So they are both broad leaves. So one they are both broad. All right, and again, you can they have dicotyledon leaf, so they are broad. The next similarity, if you look at the leaf vein, notice that they are branching leaf veins, so they are branching leaf veins. And please write this out that they both are the leaves. They are both broad, and they say that both leaves have branching veins. So branching leaf veins. So you're going to write that out in proper sentence, right? All right. So both leaves are broad leaves, or you can say both leaves are broad. Both leaves have branching leaf veins. All right, so that's two similarities right there. Two differences now. Let's see. What difference can you see? All right, I'm saying one with the petiole. The petiole for leaf B is longer than leaf A. That's a one. Also, the shape of leaf B is different from leaf A. So notice that leaf A is shape, and leaf B has a different type of shape. Notice also the edges. Let me just kind of highlight this. The edges of this leaf. Notice I'm going to highlight the edges of that leaf. The edges of this leaf. This is awesome. The leaf start looking greenish inside. What? This is miracle. I have a miracle marker. All right, yes. So the edges of this leaf, this is fun. The edge of the leaf here, it is rough. I'm shading the whole leaf. I was supposed to only talk about, highlight the edge. But I just like the color just now. Oh, it disappeared. All right, so on the edge of this leaf here, it's not as rough as the next one, is more smooth. So notice these pointy stuff on the edge of the leaf, what you call the margin of the leaf. All right, they're different. So I see three differences right here: the shape, the length of the petiole, and the edges or the margin of the leaf. All right, so I want to talk about those three. So there are three I see there, and I want to see two similarities and three differences. All right, so one of the difference is that, as I mentioned, is that for leaf A, all right, let me just do something here. Let me just quickly. I'm gonna do it like this to make it life easier for me. Let's put A right here, leaf A, and put leaf B right here. All right, just to make it a little bit, because look at difference. I like to put differences like that, right? Even though you can do it in sentences, that's also fine. But let me talk about leaf A. For leaf A, it has an oval shape. All right, so you can say ovally shaped leaf, while leaf B now, it's more like what they call a lobe-shaped leaf. So it's a lobed shape. All right, so it's shaped like a lobe, like, fingers going off. So it's like a shape like a hand. All right, it's an unshaped leaf, lobe-like shape. And next difference here we talk about is that leaf A is a shorter petiole, so shorter petiole, and the petiole is the stem of the leaf, or the leaf stem, you may want to call it. Yeah. And again, so this one have a longer petiole. It's a longer petiole. All right. And next difference that we talk about is that we have here the rough margin. So the margin is rough. So a rough margin, while leaf B now has a more smooth. So as a more smooth or relatively smooth. It's not totally smooth, but it's smoother compared. It is more smooth. Let me say more smooth margin. Okay, so it's not totally smooth. All right, so this one is a rougher margin. The margin is rougher in leaf A and more smooth in leaf B. All right, so that's that part of the question there. That's on the end of it. We have more. Oh, part C of this question here said, draw a diagram of a monocot leaf and label two features visible in your diagram that are characteristics of monocotyledon. All right. So first to draw the leaf, right? Let's put this in green leaf. All right. So first to draw this, you're going to make sure you draw the leaf in a certain orientation. So the leaf going to look something like that. All right. And then along the leaf, inside the leaf, now you have some veins. And the veins going to run. All right. I think I'm spreading out that thing too much. All right. It should be. All right. Anyway, you're getting the idea. They run side by side each other like that. Yeah. In that pattern, going up like that in the leaf, right? And so the two observable things that we can see right here, and it's a label too. It's a label them. Yeah, it's a label It's a two features, right, of the diagram visible to your thing. All right. And so label two features. So two features here is that one, we can say that the leaf is narrow leaf. So the leaf is narrow. So let's put narrow right here. All right, narrow cannot go in there. Then put it on the outside then. The motherfucker, I want it there now. Narrow leaf. The leaf is narrow. And what you also have is parallel leaf veins. So the leaf veins are parallel. The parallel leaf veins. All right. And so let me just kind of use this to let's put this back in red. All right, so we here now the entire leaf is narrow itself, is a narrow leaf. And the leaf veins, which are these, they are parallel leaf veins. All right, so leaf veins are parallel to each other. They run in one direction. All right, so that's that for that. Let's jump to the next part of the question. Now, the next part of the question reads now. Oh, no, that was a total for that mark. We're going to the next question. The third question now. It's a table shows the average daily energy requirement in kilojoules for females of different ages and with different levels of activities. So we have our chart right here. We have the age in number of years 5 to 40. And then at rest, we have the values, the average daily energy at rest. And when they're active, we have hit on this column right here, and notice the values. The next part of the question now said complete the graph to show only at rest, not the active one, but only at rest. Placing a scale of average daily energy requirement, which is in kilojoules on the y-axis, and then you're going to plot all the points now correctly, and joining the plotted points with a ruler. All right, so we know what's going to be on our y-axis. Y-axis is going to be the energy requirement, and we must use a ruler to join our points. So I'm skipping out and jump on to the diagram itself. So I'm going to skip out all of this and jump straight into showing you the one that was drawn. And so the one that was drawn is this right here. All right, and this is the values at rest. So this is the energy daily requirement at rest in kilojoules, and the SBB so nice they actually give it the labelings. They tell you where to put what axis. You have the age. Age is dependent, and the average daily intake is the independent. So that's go on the y-axis. And so you have a graph like this. I notice the shape of your graph. It increases, go that way, then it starts to come down. Also use appropriate scales to make a graph as big as possible, not so tiny graph that they cannot see a graph. You will lose mark for that. Your line must be straight and smooth, and your points must be neat and not big points. All right, and mine is looking a little bit big because I try to zoom into it to make sure that you can see properly. All right. Now they said using the graph predict the daily energy requirement for a 30-year-old female at rest. So if female is 30 years old, we're going to come in this line. So we're going to follow this line pattern all the way up here. All right, okay, I'm going to go, all right, let me just go up to the graph a little bit more. All right, so notice the graph going all the way up. All right, so let's continue starting there. All right, and it said predict the amount of energy requirement for a 30-year-old. And it comes right there. Then you come across here. All right, so what will we have right there after 5,500? Because based on the scale of the graph, that will be actually over 6,000 kilojoules, right? So it's going to be 6,000 kilojoules. So it's right there, 6,000 kilojoules of energy. All right, based on the graph. All right, it's a describe how the average daily energy requirement for females at rest changes with increasing time. So if you have increasing time, what you have is also increasing, then you have a decline. So we notice the graph, it increased first, then it declined after a period of time. So the relationship is that as age increases, the energy requirement also increase, and then after a point, it will what? Decrease. All right, so that's the trend right there. All right. All right, so next thing right now is a part B. It says suggest a reason to explain the effect of the average daily energy requirement of being active compared to being at rest. So what is making a difference here? All right, so first thing, let's just write this down. When active, so just to make a note here, that when active, more energy. All right, so more energy is required. So more energy is required, all right, to carry out the task. All right, because when you're active, you need more energy. So that means you have faster respiration and the energy requirements of the cells increase and all of that. So you can see the energy of the cells increase, or the muscles in the body require more energy. So anything along that line will be good. All right, so the muscles, I can say the muscles require more energy. All right, so the muscle require more energy. More energy when active. All right, so there are a number of different ways I actually could say this. Once you talk about increased activity, there's a more demand for energy in the body. All right. All right, so for part C now, it said the table shows the average daily energy requirement of an active 25-year-old female is greater than the average daily energy requirement for an active 40-year-old female. All right, so 25-year-old has a higher age requirement than a 40-year-old, even both of them are active. Is to calculate the additional energy requirement over a period of 1 week for an active 25-year-old female compared to an active 40-year-old female. So what is key here? Let me just kind of highlight some stuff that I think we need to know. Here is over a period of 1 week. Let me show they see the highlight there, the 1 week. Okay. So for 1 week, and look at the difference, calculate the average energy requirement over 1 week's period for an active female compared to that of a 40-year-old female. So what is the difference first? So what we're going to do is look at the daily requirement. So the graph tells us the daily requirement. So let's look at that quickly. And I could go to the chart. I could use the graph as well, but let's go to the chart itself. And the table shows right here, we're comparing 25-year-old, which is, and it said active. Oh, I was just active, so I need to go over the active side. So if it's the 25-year-old female active is 8,000, and the 40-year-old female that is active is 7,600, right? So we're losing 8,000 and the 7,600. That's when they are both active. So let's go down back to now. We're going to calculate this thing. All right, so we're going to show you working right here. So the first thing now, the daily difference, the daily energy requirement difference. This is for daily now, the daily difference. So I'm going to talk about the daily difference. Let's just say DIF. Oh, let me just write out the whole thing. The daily difference will be here, will be the 8,000, all right, minus the 7,600, and that will give us 400. All right, so that's equal to 400 kilojoules. Now, again, remember that this here is on a daily basis, right? But it asks over a period of a week. So for a week now, for a whole week, the difference for the whole week, for a week, it's going to equal to that 400, which is daily, multiplied by 7, because the 7 days make a week, and that's only for 1 day up top. So when you multiply 400 by 7, you get 2,800. All right, so the answer on this line is going to be 2,800. All right, 2,800. That's the answer right there. All right, over a week's period. All right, so part 2 is to suggest 2 reasons why the average daily energy requirement of an active 25-year-old female is greater than the average daily requirement for an active 40-year-old female. So there are 2 possible reasons there. Even though both of them are active, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing the same thing, isn't it? So to start out here, this be our first point. So one could have been that the 25-year-old involved in more activity. Okay, so more physical activity. Okay, so more physical activity. So when I say more physical activities, I'm talking about like engaging in gym, exercise, and whatever it is. It could be like for exercise. So, I mean, both of them could be exercising, but the thing is that the 25-year-old may push more weight, may run a longer mile, and things like that, right? And just do more. And even the 25-year-old may be involved in sports. They're both active, but again, the 25-year-old may be involved in sports. All right, while a 40-year-old may only play a little tennis or a little, something simple, maybe nothing too big and too hectic on the body. So yeah, even though they are both active, the physical activities can be different. All right, so let's change it to pluralize this. So physical activities. All right, so next possible thing right here is the career as well, right? If they're both active, they're both working, but the thing is that the 25-year-old may be working on a production line or maybe working in a company that the person will be walking up and down more, have to be more active. While the 40-year-old could be sitting in the office, yeah, for the whole day and things like that, right? Or you are in a job at the desk, or just job that require little to no movement, really. Yeah, so that could be a big difference there in terms of the energy requirement per day. And again, the 25-year-old will experience more growth compared to a 40-year-old. The matter of fact, the 40-year-old will stop growing. So there's little to no repair of the body. And so energy is required to repair the body and to develop the body as well, right? So the 25-year-old could be developing. And so let's say growth and development, because our developmental process could be taking place there. More in the 25-year-old compared to the 40-year-old female. And another one here now is also for maternal reasons, a maternal difference. All right, let's say maternal conditions or difference. Yeah, so let's say maternal conditions. I'm going to explain what I mean by maternal conditions, and which you need to explain if you say something like this. For example, pregnancy. All right, for example, pregnancy. And pregnancy, a 25-year-old, it doesn't mean that, well, a 25-year-old person, I think, is more likely to become pregnant than a 40-year-old. When I say more likely, I don't mean if they're doing the same thing, one going to be pregnant faster than next. What I mean is that a 40-year-old person, I think, kind of stop making babies. When they say, I'm not saying that you stop making because your body stop. I'm just saying you now decide that, okay, you start to plan for retirement, you start to plan for your children and grandchildren rather than you having children at that time. So females tend to have children before 40. Some persons still have children in their 40s, right? If they decide to do that. But I'm just saying, let's say the 25-year-old is pregnant, for example. And even though 25, sometimes a female, some females just start the career, just ready to start the business. And so they don't condone the idea of having children at that time as well. So I'm not saying that 25-year-old is the time for you to have children. Sometimes it's time for you to really start your own business, to start something that is progressive, start something that's going to be meaningful in your life, and then after that you have a children. So I'm not saying that when you're 25, go have children. I'm not saying that at all. All right. So pregnancy could be one. All right. And also if the female's pregnancy or lactation. So if a person could be lactating as well. So lactating. So a lactating female, which means act of producing milk. If you're producing milk, you require more energy to supply for your child, to produce that nutrients, to give your child nutrients and all that stuff. So yeah, so a different number of things you could talk about right there. Once they make sense and applicable to the situation, by all means. All right, so that's the end of that question. Final question now. Final question. It's a group of students visited a local beach known to be polluted by several different types of solid waste. And you could do the solid waste. This is nasty. So if you partake in things like this, throwing garbage on the street, when driving the car, throwing your KFC box out and your Wendy's box, and it's nasty. Don't do it. Stop it. All right, you're contributing to pollution. Stop it. All right, and if you see anybody do it, tell them to stop it. It's nasty. It's not good. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Bad for the environment, bad for you, bad for your children, bad for the future, bad for the country, bad for everything. Nasty and selfish. All right. Anyhow, their aim was to find out which type of solid waste was most abundant on the beach. The students took the following equipment with them: a quadrant and a measuring tape. So we have the quadrant right there and the measuring tape. All right, so we have those two things. Let's see what the questions now. It's an outline a random sampling method. So we're going to outline a random sampling method that the students could use to determine the abundance of different type of solid waste in the area. And again, remember you have to do this random, because the key thing here said random sampling. So this is very important here. Quadrat is normally used to take random sampling. If you take a deliberate sample, that will actually be biased to the survey or research or the field study. So it's a field study type of thing, right? So one you're going to do is to use the measuring tape. You're going to use the measuring tape, all right, to measure our mark. Let's say to measure our mark, um, the specific area of study. All right. So of course you don't want to do the entire beach. You won't say, okay, I'm gonna do this in a 100 meters, or this a 4 by or 200 meters by 100 meters, something like that. But it must be specific, or 50 meters by 40 meters. You want it to be specific. This is the area that I'm actually doing. And so once you mark up that area, or you make a line, what you call a transect line, you can make a line, or you can make a specific area that you want to study. And then now the next thing you want to do now is a toss. So this is the second thing. You're gonna toss the quadrat. You're gonna toss the quadrat. Toss the quadrat randomly. You toss the quadrat. Come on. Yeah. Toss the quadrat randomly. Randomly. Along or within. Let's say along or within. Let's say along. If you make one single line, you do it along the line. If you make an area, like I say, okay, this is going to be 100 meter by whatever, along or within the marked area. All right, along. All right, so along or within the marked area. So they're going to do that. Toss it randomly. Okay. All right, and next thing you're going to do now, you want to do after you do that is to here now you're going to measure. No, after you toss it, you're going to count. Yeah. So you're going to count and record, a matter of fact, count and record the type and amount, the type and amount of solid waste in each segment or sector, in each segment of the quadrat. Okay. All right, at the quadrat. So we'll make sure we have that. All right, so yeah, so we want to make sure we mark that or measure it. Each segment or each section of the quadrat, you make sure it count, and the type, make sure you record the type and the amount of the solid waste in each segment of the quadrat. The next thing you want to do is to, after do that, after record it, you want to actually analyze it. So you're going to calculate and analyze. So you're going to calculate and analyze the result. All right, so calculate and analyze the result. So you can make a graph. For example, you use a graph to show you how much of the plastic, how much of this you have compared to the rest and things like that. So you get a better view or understanding of the type of solid waste that are actually in the area, or the percentage of that solid waste in the area. So there are a number of things you can do. You can calculate percentage. You can use a graph to see the difference between each of them. So there are so many different things you can do. All right, for part B, now, so why should the student sample the area? Why should the student sample the area of the beach on several different occasions? So why you want to go there on several different occasions to take sample? Because remember now, it could be a one-time situation, right? That people dump things on the beach. You want to make sure it's a consistent thing. And so you want to ensure consistency as well. So you want to ensure accuracy. Let's use, I'm going to say consistency, but accuracy, to ensure accuracy in the abundant, okay? In the abundant of each waste. Because you don't want to say, okay, you see a lot of KFC box, a lot of KFC boxes this week or this morning, and then next you go back, you don't see them, because you can have a party on the beach, and it's just because of a party why you have KFC box, or you may have a certain or beer bottles, for example. But is it an ongoing thing? So you have a better way to really ensure that you have accurate recording of the abundance. So ensure accurate recording of, let me say recording of, accurate recording of the abundance of each waste. All right, so it's really, really of that. And also to enhance or to make your prediction more reliable. All right, so that's definitely it. You want to make sure you do it on different occasions. All right, so do the experiment more than once is always best to get a better understanding of what is actually happening. Here now, it's after sampling the beach on 3 separate occasions, the following data were collected, and so we have our samples there. Is a complete table by filling in the missing average value. So we're going to put in the missing average value. And so we add up 30, 41, and 40. What you're going to get there and divide by 3. The sum of them divided by 3, you're going to get 37. So 37 will be our missing value right there. And this is average number of pieces per sample. And then now, and notice we have your plastic, metal, glass, and paper. So just to make a note of that. Here now, the next part of the question is said that complete the table. No, we finished that part. Part 2. It said, what conclusion can be drawn about solid waste pollution on this beach? So if we go back to the chart, there's a number of things we can talk about. Let's see how much marks this is. 3 marks. So we can talk about 3 things, right? So look at the values carefully, see what they can talk about. Then we have plastic, metal, glass, and paper. All right, so one of them that we can actually make right here, if you look at the chart again, is that metal is the least abundant on the beach, all right? It's the least abundant waste, all right? Or is the least amount of waste, all right? So it's the least occurring or least abundant. Let me put abundant. The least abundant waste or the least occurring waste, that was metal. You don't find much metal compared to the rest, all right? And the next one you can look is that plastic is the most, all right? So plastic is the most abundant. All right, and normally if you see less metals and more plastic, that also tells us something. That tells us that persons that use the beach, that most of these things can be domestic materials, or it can be because of ongoing social events on the beach as well. So it depends on what you find there, can also indicate what type of activities are taking place on the beach quite frequently that causing the pollution. And also, if you look at the chart again, you're going to realize that most of the waste, they're actually non-biodegradable. All right, so most of the waste are non-biodegradable because if, I'm gonna go back and show you non-biodegradable. All right, so they're non-biodegradable, most of them. And looking back at the chart, you realize now that paper is the only biodegradable one, right? So there to show you that most of them are really non-biodegradable. Add up the total amount of fact, it will be way more than the paper, right? So in terms of percentage, non-biodegradable make up a larger percentage on the beach. That's the end of it, and that's also the end of the paper. And so again, wish you luck in your examination. Talk to you soon. Be calm, be comfortable, do well.